Okay, so the topic for is the sound working all right? Everything's working. Okay, good. The topic for this week in the readings, we're not going to do the readings because we want to spend more time with you all. So the topic, though, is by thinking, can we find God?
Understanding.
By understanding and, using the mind, essentially. And the answer is absolutely not. The mind, at a certain point, becomes our enemy, not our friend. The mind is made in order to help us work in this world of Maya. And so it's almost like, if we want to use the example of having a dream at night, the dream character, the way that dream character thinks, can't make him wake up because it's a self-enclosed kind of a box. And so it is with us using our mind. It's very important. It's a very important tool for navigating this world, this dream world that we find ourselves in, Maya. And we can't just ignore that because we're born into this. We have karma in this world. We have to use the mind. We have to use all of the tools that we have, all of those resources to navigate our life as well as we possibly can. But the point here is that God and the realm of spirit is beyond the realm of the mind. And so the mind isn't bad, it's just limited. And so with the limitations of the mind, if we think that we can find our way out of the kind of circle of Maya, the balloon of Maya, by using the mind, we can't, because the mind belongs to the realm of Maya. So we have to use some other kind of mode. Ultimately, we have to use intuition, which is the way that the soul understands, or the soul perceives, is better than understanding. But especially just thinking that, we're going to think our way to God as if He exists as a big problem that we can figure out a puzzle, it's not going to work. One time, Devi and I were with Swamiji, and he was correcting me for a fault that I had. And he was actually, the fault was that I tended to, when someone was trying to do a project or had an idea that I knew, that I was quite sure wouldn't work, I would tell them, this isn't a good direction to go, or you shouldn't do that. And Swami was telling me, no, let people try out their own ideas, even if it fails, even if you know that it's going to fail. They don't know that it's going to fail. And so let them try, because that's the way they'll learn. And I said, I understand, Swamiji. And he said, I don't care if you understand or not. I want you to teach. And so it was a very good lesson, because a lot of times we think that simply by understanding something, then everything's going to change, and nothing changes. If you ever have, I don't know, an argument with somebody, and you can finally get them to understand your point of view, generally the argument will continue anyway, because they'll think up another way, because they don't want to accept your point of view, basically. And so at any rate, just using the mind is not effective. When Swami came to Master, Swami had a brilliant intellect. He not only, he was a genius. And so he wrote so many books and did so much music, all of that. But he had a very sharp understanding. You could start, I would say, some of us saw it as kind of difficulty because we would start to say a sentence to Swami and he would know before we finished the third word what we were trying to say. And half the time he would just kind of break in because he didn't want to wait till we finished our slogging through explaining something to him. He would just break in and answer. And sometimes, in fact, quite often, he would not answer the question that we were asking or the thought that we were saying. He would answer the doubt or the concern or the fear that was behind that question. But so I'm using that example only to say that he had a very sharp mind and a very clear perception, but he also had deep intuition. We were just talking with someone this morning, and she was saying that the first time that she met Swamiji, he looked at her, and someone was introducing her, and telling Swami what she did and her connection to Ananda. Swami just ignored all of that and said, "You have very kind eyes." And she's always remembered that because she's run into several instances in her life where people have kind of accused her of being unkind, and it's made her doubt herself a little bit. But she remembers Swami saying, "You have very kind eyes," because he intuitively was looking at her soul. And so, in this case, maybe she has a little habit of brusqueness or something of that sort, but her nature is kind. Another time, Swami just met a woman, and he looked at her and he said, Your eyes look like you're an artist." And she kind of was shocked. She said, "Yes, I am an artist. That's my occupation. I paint and I teach art." But that intuition that he had went beyond understanding, because understanding comes from looking at the facts or looking at that which is known and then maybe putting the connections together, or in some cases making a little bit of a jump of logic from that which you see to something. But it's those little jumps. How do you get from looking at a person that you know nothing about and then saying you're an artist? You can't do that logically. How do you get from something that is the unknown, like trying to find God, and say, "Oh, I understand," because you can't get there intellectually. And so we have to develop our intuition, and we also, in order to function well in this world, we have to balance two qualities. Swami said that wisdom comes from the combination of intellect and heart. So understanding and feeling, those two combined. You probably have all met people, maybe you work for people that are like this, that treat you with, maybe they have a very sharp intellect, but they treat you without any heart quality. And if they do that, you don't feel understood. And in fact, their sharp intellect can feel more like a weapon to you than something that is admirable, because they don't have heart quality. But if you find a person that has both sharp intellect and cares about the person that they're talking to or working with, then that's the kind of person that you feel that you want to open yourself to. And so we should all strive in this world to develop that balance between heart quality, which is empathy and caring and friendship and love, those qualities of feeling that are uplifted. And their feeling can go, the heart chakra, anahata chakra, can go either down, the energy either down or up. If the energy goes down from that chakra, we get into negative feelings. dislike or jealousy or anger or that's downward moving energy from the Anahata chakra. But upward moving energy, we get into feelings of compassion, or if we direct it toward God or Guru, devotion, friendship, love. And so that upward directed energy from the heart plus the mind, those two in combination give us wisdom. And with that, with wisdom, we can navigate this world. But it's kind of like, with that, we can move around the planet. We can move around both geographically and move around the mindscape of the planet, move around socially with the planet, meaning that we can get along with people, we can be friends with people, but that still doesn't get us to God. To get to God, you can't get to the moon by jumping as high as you can jump. And that's what the mind is like we're trying to jump and touch the moon. And we just can't do it that way. So in order to reach the moon, you need to get out of the gravitational pull of the earth. And so you need a lot of energy for that. And that energy comes by deep devotion. It comes by attuning yourself to God, to Guru, to opening your heart to Him especially, to feeling that He, in the purification ceremony, we say, open your heart to me. The Master says, open your heart to me, and I will enter and take charge of your life. The more we open our heart to the Guru, the more his guidance will come in, both in practical ways and in more subtle ways, especially in our meditation. So the movement toward God takes both. As I was saying, Swami had a very developed intellect, but Master, when he came to Master said, "You're too intellectual." In other words, you're using your mind to try to understand. Swami told me the same thing. And Master said, you need to get devotion. And Swami took it very seriously. He chanted for hours a day developing devotion. So the gurus correct us in thinking that the mind alone can get us there. They try to get us back into our heart and back into being centered. The whole practice of meditation is to get us centered and lift up the energy to the higher centers. And when we do that, then the intuition or superconsciousness opens up. And that is the quality that will help us really find spiritual freedom.
I'll also share a few words with you, dear friends. First, I just see Prasad's shoulder, but we want to express our condolences on the loss of your mother, and we hope your family is being comforted at this time. So, we've told this story before, but I support it in this discussion. Also, once we were visiting Swamiji here in India, and he was having breakfast and asked us to join him. And he had told all of the disciples that we should strive to achieve the state of Jiva Mukti in this lifetime. And so we were having breakfast with Swami, and we said, Swami, that's a high goal to strive for. And he was eating his food and just put down his fork, and he said, the whole of the spiritual path is overcoming the ego. And this can be done by two things: seeing God as the doer and deeper and longer meditations. That's all he said. So I want to talk about, in this context of by thinking can we come to understanding, seeing God as the doer, even in our thoughts. There's a beautiful poem by
So the screen froze. It says reconnecting. If you can hear us, we're connecting up.
Okay.
Okay, you had
Okay,
just said the beginning of your talk, hardly anything, except for seeing God as the doer. Then after that,
Okay.
you froze.
Okay, so we were having breakfast with Swamiji, and he had given us the instruction that we should try to become Jivan Muktas in this lifetime, strive for that. And we were with him, and it was just the three of Jyotish and me and Swamiji. And we said to him, Swami, we're taking that instruction very seriously, but it's a pretty high goal. And he was eating his breakfast, and he put down his fork, and he just said, hold up the spiritual path is about overcoming the ego. And this is done by two things, by longer and deeper meditation and seeing God as the doer. And that's all he said. He put down, he finished his breakfast. And so let's think about how do we see God as the doer, even in our thoughts, because we're trained from as soon as we begin schooling to use our mind to solve problems, to draw solutions, to make decisions, and all of a sudden we're trying to think, well, even my thoughts that I think are my best tool for navigating life, maybe they're not so useful. And there's a song that one of our members, from a poem by Master, one of our members put it to music, and the words, I'll paraphrase, but I have not, the devotee saying to God, I have nothing to offer thee, for all things are thine. Here I lay at thy feet, Lord, my limbs, my life, my thoughts, and my speech, for they are thine. So we can understand, I lay my limbs, my physical body, I offer my energy to you, my life, my soul force I offer to you. In speech, it's pretty easy, relatively easy. You try to monitor what you say and just say, God, is this pleasing to you in this situation? Is this what I should say to this person? Is this what will make me feel your presence more? But our thoughts, how do we offer our thoughts to God? Because we try in meditation, we all know the challenge of it. We know the challenge of trying to keep our minds still and our thoughts calm. And it's a challenge for everyone. That's why it's Arjuna says to Krishna in Gita, the mind is so difficult to tame. It is easier to tame the wind than to tame the mind. And I just saw it, interestingly, Arjuna carries into battle his emblem on his flag is the monkey, and I've always heard the interpretation because he conquered the restless mind, but I saw another interpretation where it said the monkey was born of Vayu, the wind, and so he's saying that I have tamed pranayama, I've controlled the breath, the life force, so it has dual meaning. But what we're saying here is the mind is difficult, and usually thoughts proceed from the ego, from our sense of individuality. And we've been trained that way, and it works to a certain extent. If you would go to your work and your boss says, well, how are you going to do this project? And you just say, well, we'll see what God wants. I wouldn't be. But that's the right answer. You just can't say that to your boss, but it's the right answer. And but what we're trying to do in meditation, the more we can keep day after day, month after month, year after year, bringing the energy from the ego, from the medulla center, through the brain to the spiritual eye, and holding it there, holding it in the light, our thoughts themselves become imbued with God's presence. And it's a subtle shift. So it's not like we are in control. That's the thing that I see the hardest thing to give up, is I am in control of my life. Because that's how we survive. But then faith starts coming in, devotion starts coming in, and we say, Lord, my thoughts are so little. Your thoughts are so big. Why am I clinging to my thoughts? Guide me. Guide thou my thought, will, my reason, will, and activity, we say. Guide my reason. So and little by little, you begin feeling the difference when it's your thoughts or when your thoughts are being guided by God. And that's when we start doing that, we start feeling peace that comes when we surrender even our thoughts. And we say, this is how I would do it, but how would you do it, God? My ways are little, your ways are big. And my ways lack understanding, ways embrace understanding. And so try through your meditation to feel your thoughts, offer them up to God, and try to feel His energy in your thoughts. I see a friend in the back who is the translator of our books into Tamil. And I'm sure when you're doing translating work, you have to be guided by that intuitive flow of God's thoughts, because you translate from one language to another. It's a very difficult thing because it's not literal. It's not literal, like this word means this and this word means that, but it's a flow. What's the thought behind those words? And that's a good example, really, because what we're trying to do is to translate God's language, His thoughts into our thoughts, and feel that creative flow, that flow of wisdom coming into our own thoughts. And, you know, it was so thrilling all these years that we were working with, Nayaswamis was leading us, and we were helping, me and many others were helping him to build Ananda, because a lot of the things he did, directions he chose, didn't seem logical. They didn't seem rational. And here he was, this man with this brilliant mind, but Ananda was not built by the intellect. Ananda was built by the thought of God, will of God. And so many times, after the fire, when the community was burnt down, Swami thought, I'm going to go on a lecture tour. And at a certain level, we kind of thought, well, we need you here. We don't know where, we have no homes, we have no income, we have no jobs. But he said no. And he went on a lecture tour, and in that tour, he drew many, many new people to the community. And we brought new energy in. But it was also an affirmation. The conscious mind wants to say, I have to protect myself. The divine thought thinks, I want to expand outward and out to infinity. And that's how Ananda was built. It wasn't taking little steps, but it was always looking at the horizon. And it was, on a very subtle level, it was the best possible training. One of the best things, of course, meditation, Kriya, devotion to the Guru, discipleship, but learning to live your life in accordance and attunement with the flow of God, and watch that it may not be rational. It may make it, Swami, one time we were having a little fundraiser to try to, I forget what it was for. This was many years ago. Maybe it was I really don't remember what it was for. But everybody was pledging a certain amount of money. And Swami, there was one thing we were trying to accomplish, which was to do some landscaping. And they put a price tag on it of $5,000. And Swami looked at that and he thought, well, nobody has that much money in Ananda. And Swami thought, I don't have that much money, but I'm going to pledge that I'm going to pay for this work. And so he said, I will do that $5,000 pledge, not knowing where the money was coming from. And then the next day, he got a letter from someone and said, my mother has passed away. She paid some money. And in her honor, I want to make this donation to you, Swami. It was just the amount he needed to pay for that. But he couldn't figure it out on a rational level. And so we're allowing God's thoughts to come through you. It's what builds a bridge of knowing that you are nothing but a part of God. That's all we are, is a part of God. Because you see that your whole life is just His play. We think we're in charge. We think we're in control, but we're not at all. It's all God's dream. And everything that comes to us, many of you commented and read the blog we wrote about our friend Jairam, who's in prison. It's so beautiful to go visit him, because here he's had every amount of free will taken away from him. And we didn't write this in the blog, but his sister told us when he was a little boy, they would go to the swimming pool. And Jairam, he was just like 6 and 7 years old, he would sit at the bottom, underwater, cross-legged, holding his breath for long periods of time. And he would say, come, it's easy, let's sit underwater. And she said, I can't do that. But Jyotish and I both feel that in another life, he was a yogi. And maybe he used his power. He was a high soul. And so in this life, he had all the power taken away from him. But it's not him spiritually. You walk into that prison visit room, and it's a very sad place because of the human tragedy and the little children coming to visit relatives and parents and separated from prison. But Jairam is radiant, and so he has surrendered his life to God. And so if we begin to understand, yes, we have to be practical in this world. Yes, we have to have feet on the ground. Yes, we have to make decisions that have a practical impact. But always try to feel that you're drawing God's guidance in your thoughts and your words and your actions. And the more we do that, the more we begin feeling, God, the only joy in my life, the only meaning in my life is to realize my oneness with you. And everything else is just, shadows, dust and shadows. But to really feel our union with God and to give our life to God, it's our destiny. It's why we were born. And someone sent us a quote from Master, and I'll close with this, and then we can ask you if you have questions. Start thinking right now. Or don't think, like God loves God through you. But someone sent us an excerpt from a Master's where he said, to be drawn to this path with a serious commitment, because Master's path is not an easy path. It's not a feel-good path. It's not, it's challenging. And the techniques he gave are subtle and deep, and they're challenging techniques, but they're not just to, self-help. They're to transcend the evil. The Master said, and this was, I want each of you to take this to heart. He said, those who have seriously committed yourself to this path understand you yogis many times in the past. You have been on the path of meditation and the search for God, and now in this lifetime, coming to Master, and we have a real possibility of making very strong spiritual progress. Master said the time for knowing God has come. We can find that if we make the effort. So please understand, no matter what challenges you have in your life, with family, with finances, with health, with job, whatever it may be, we all have. No one is free of them. But if you can, behind all of those things, just say, hey, Lord, the real purpose of my life is to find you. Everything else is secondary. If you can hold on to that this lifetime, with your heart, with your mind, with your soul, with your strength, Master's promise will be fulfilled. And the time for knowing, for you and for me to know God, it will have come in this lifetime. So let's not waste time. Let's use this lifetime well. And those of you, and we know many of you in the room, are very committed spiritually. And we're very, I'm sure Master is very pleased with all of you and with the work you do to support the center there in Chennai. So do you all have any questions?
And Dharmaraj, maybe if there's a question, you can repeat it because the sound is a little bit on and off.
Okay.
No.
We always see your arm, you know it's you. Now we see your face.
Why don't you slide in for 7?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, I was thinking about a blog that you wrote a while ago, practicing the presence of God. So, my understanding of it was like to bring Swamiji and Master with me in the things that I do, but more often than not it is, at least initially, something that involves mind and willpower in order to draw them constantly to say, let us do this thing together, or I don't want this thought, I want to do this, and kind of drawing them into asking them suggestions on how to involve more heart into such a thing. In meditation it becomes more simpler, but while doing other things it feels more like a mental exercise, but how to bring in more heart into such a thing?
Right. That's a very good question, Prasanna. You know, I would say that it's less the mind asking than the heart feeling like he's your friend and that he is present with you, like a friend might be sitting in the car with you. You aren't thinking, oh, my friend is sitting in the car with me. Oh, is he still there? Oh, you know. So it's not the mind. You just kind of feel, oh, he's with me. And so assume that Master is with you, sitting in your car, sitting in your job, sitting in the dining table, but more of a feeling and an openness of kind of your feeling nature. So instead of saying, oh, Master, I want you to guide me, and having a formal prayer, just kind of feel, Master, help me out here. I don't know what to do. Come on and help. Give me your help.
And meditation, we don't always feel much when we meditate. And I'm speaking from my own experience over the years. You know, sometimes we think, I tried Master, but all I was thinking of was what I was going to do, I had to do today. Or I did my Kriyas, but I wasn't really able to focus my mind. But over time, and that's why I want to encourage you, keep it up and do it regularly. Every day, every night, meditate and do our techniques. because it changes your consciousness. And it doesn't, when we're new on the path, a lot of these things are mental exercises. But then over time, through meditation, your consciousness changes. And you begin to feel the presence of God. And it just, a little subtle wisp, like a little whisper from eternity, such a beautiful image Master gave us. And just a little whisper, and you realize that was touching the foot of God, the thumb of Jyotish. And, so the more we can find that stillness meditation, and I know everyone's lives are busy, but if we make time for God now, before you know it, we won't have the energy to do it. Life goes by fast. And so through meditation, you begin to feel a subtle perception of God's presence. And then it's easier. It's easier to do what Jyotish was doing, not just to kind of mentally say, okay, God is with me, but to feel when you go for a walk that you're both enjoying the new little bananas growing, watching new bananas grow from the tree, or the pretty bird that flies by, or the little children playing in the street, all those things. So it becomes a reality rather than just a mental exercise.
I just want to add that as we open ourselves to Master said that he will, when he's gone from this earth, which he is now, he'll speak to us through our conscience. And so if you start to do something and there's a little whisper in your mind saying, I shouldn't do this, that's Master speaking to you. And if you listen to him, even sometimes you may not obey him, but if you at least listen to those whispers, then they become stronger and stronger. Okay, other questions? There's one behind you, Dharmarajan.
Yeah. The purpose of our life is to find God. And this desire to become one with God doesn't get fulfilled in one lifetime, that's for sure. So, do we also reincarnate, or do we also come back because of this desire that we have to find God?
Yes, Ma said a very interesting answer, because someone said, isn't the desire for God just another desire? And in this sense, if we understand that we come back because of our desires, well, if we desire to find God, do we have to come back because of that desire? And Anandamoy Ma said, yes, the desire for God is another desire, but it is the desire that ends all desires. And so if you desire God, God is on this plane, but he's more manifest on the astral plane, and even more manifest on the causal plane, and even more manifest beyond any of the creation. So if you have a desire for something on this plane, let's say fame or wealth, have a big pile of money. Well, we don't need money on the astral plane. So if you have desire for money, that desire will bring you back to this plane, because money is only needed here, and that desire can only be fulfilled here. So, but if you have a desire for beyond money, let's say to be secure, and even if you're working on saying, I don't need money to be secure, Divine Mother, I just need your love. Well, her love is stronger on the next plane than it is here. So you see the desires, there are different kinds of desires. Desires that are connected to the physical plane draw us back to the physical plane. Those that aren't don't necessarily draw us back.
But here's something that Swami shared with us that I'm hesitant to tell you because I don't even understand it, but maybe you all can and are together. we can.
Understanding's not that important.
So, what Swami said was high yogis, like he told about, there was a high yogi, this true story, that was about to leave the body, and he saw a young man walking by, and he asked, can I enter your body? Because I don't want to waste time in the astral world. I want to keep the momentum of what I've started. And so the man agreed, and the yogi left one body and went into the young man's body. But so essentially what Swami said, the point is that it's high beings don't want to waste time in the astral world because it's just kind of, I don't know, you can't make progress in the astral world. It's sort of like going, I know you all went on a pilgrimage to Puri. And, it's sort of like being on the beach all the time. That's the astral world. And so you can't really make progress. And so somehow in this world of pain and suffering and delusion, this is where we can make spiritual progress. I don't understand that, but I share it with you. And so if you have not completed union with God, yes, you'll be drawn back to this world, but not with the desire for this world. So you hear of yogis that at the age of 6, the families and go off to the Himalayas. Well, that's someone who's in this physical plane, but they don't want this physical plane. They want to find God. So just being in this plane, you can be here and want the things of this world, or you can be here and say, I am in this world only because it reminds me that true happiness is not to be found here. Maybe that's the point behind all of that. Vidya?
Yes, I don't know if this is another intellectual question, but anyway, this is about the soul. Is the soul kind of designated in the body in a particular place, or is it all over the place? And also that does it have the capability to leave the body and come back and do this back and forth, or is it just attached to the body all the time?
That's too intellectual. We're not going to answer that.
No. In fact, it's a good question. See, that the soul is connected to this body, but primarily the connection is the breath, which keeps the prana inside the body. Well, I just read something fascinating that Sri Yogeshwar said, and he said that we need to strive to be able to leave the body, have our soul leave the body, so that we can perceive the astral world, because then we have the comparison, and we'll forget about the lower desires, because the astral world is so much more attractive to the soul. And so if we can have the soul exit the body, which happens in deep meditation. So the soul, if we go breathless, then the soul is able to leave the body, and at that time it perceives the astral world, and that is so much more attractive that then at the time of death we don't want to have lower desires because we know of the higher desires. He was actually then really talking about, he was working with astral beings, and the astral beings needed to go to the causal plane to experience the causal plane so that they didn't reincarnate on the astral plane. But and then he said it also applies to the difference between the physical plane and the astral plane. So yes, the soul can exist without the body, and the body can go into a state of sort of suspended animation while the soul is kind of doing its thing elsewhere. So,
but also another way to look at it is the chakras, the medulla and the spiritual eye are the positive and negative pole of one chakra, the Agya chakra, and the seat of soul nature is between the eyebrows. And when we, at the point of leaving the body, either consciously or through death, we exit. There's a subtle channel between the spiritual eye and the crown chakra, and we connect. The highest yogis exit through the crown chakra. Many years ago, we had a Swami visit Ananda village. He was a disciple of Shivananda of Rishikesh, and he was a practitioner of, I believe it was called Laya Yoga, which is the yoga of sound. And he placed a very heavy silver coin, his shaman head, and he placed a silver coin on his crown chakra. He chanted Om, and he was able to lift, it was amazing, lift off that heavy coin from the crown chakra with the sound of Om. And that was the soul power that he had. So our whole body is animated with divine energy. What is this life flowing through my veins? This life is divine, this energy is divine, but the consciousness moves up through the chakras, through higher centers of awareness, and finally to the spiritual eye, the seat of super consciousness or soul awareness. And it connects it from there or from the crown chakra, depending on the degree of spiritual development. Did that make sense? Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? One more?
When are you coming to Chennai, Ji?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to say it again, Mary.
Ji, I asked, my question was about when you're coming to Chennai.
Ask your acharya.
Yeah.
He will tell you.
yeah, sometime in the fall. We don't have our schedule yet,
Thank you, Ji.
but we didn't come to Chennai last year, so this year we have to come.
Twice.
We promise.
Yeah.
We promise. Okay, well, maybe we will close. Let's close. The world is being troubled now by this coronavirus. Fortunately, India does not seem to be very affected by it, but there are cases. We've heard from our community in Italy, and it's affecting Italy a great deal. Not our community itself, but it's people are going. Those people who have weak immune systems are going into self-imposed quarantine and so forth. So let's just do a prayer for the whole world that this. Let's sit up and visualize this planet surrounded by the blessings of our gurus, of Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, and Master. See the light and the protection and the grace of these great ones surrounding our planet, blowing away the thoughts of disease and fear, of confusion, of panicking, and replacing them with health and well-being, with peace and trust and faith. See little points of light coming from our great masters and all the great saints and sages, piercing the veils and shadows of darkness that surround this planet and demolishing them. The light is stronger than any shadow. And feel that light of health, well-being, strength, joy, prosperity, circling our planet, surrounding it, penetrating it with the blessings of God and our gurus. And let's rub our hands together and chant Om, sending out the blessings of our masters. Have a beautiful day, and thank you for inviting us to be with you today. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.